Today's guest has one of the most outstanding and unique backgrounds I've come across. With a 34-year career in military leadership, she is a West Point graduate from its first class with women. Her small group of 62 trailblazing women graduates has grown to over 5,000, representing 25% of the Academy today. A retired Army colonel and Harvard MBA, she commanded 3 U.S. Army Corps of Engineer districts, including a $2.1 billion reconstruction program in combat. She was at the Pentagon during the 9/11 attack as a member of the Joint Staff Anti-Terrorism Team. Since her retirement from Army life in 2010, she has served as an inspirational keynote speaker, a coach, and is the founder of Mentally Tough Women. Her positive outlook on life is grounded in her faith and a clear understanding of extreme adversity and tough situations. Welcome, Deb. Oh my gosh.
Thank
Need
you,
me
Kate.
say more? What an accomplished lady you are. Oh, it's fabulous.
You're
So
so
nice. Go ahead.
You're so kind. I mean,
Thank you.
I'm gonna just change my name here because the Lewis Adams is my, there we go. So when it records, it'll have my name on there. I just wanted you to know that it's like taking a picture of somebody. You know, you take a picture of someone and they're smiling. It's not because their life was easy. It's because, you know, they went through the hell and then they're like, take a picture. Okay, smile.
Yeah.
So that's kind of thank you for saying all that. And all that means is that I've been dragged through the mud. I have been slammed to the ground. I have been thrown over the fence.
And still here you are.
Lifted me up from before. I think of the turtle that you see on top of the post where it didn't get there by itself. It had a lot of people.
Yeah.
A lot of people helped me get there.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm so glad you made it through all the muck and the grind and that you're here to join us to share more of your inspiration. So we'll start with this opening, because I know it's something that is dear to your heart and something that you teach on as well. Can you imagine what is possible when we adapt easily to stressful situations? Now, that is something that Deb is an expert in. And so my first question to you is, how can we see stress as something we can use to our advantage rather than our disadvantage? And what are some of the top go-to tools and skills of mentally tough women that we need to know?
Okay, let's get started.
Yeah.
I think that when we start at the beginning, I think we have to go through our emotions. I think you have to really get in touch with your emotions. And sometimes you can have everything going well for you, and then one thing happens, and all of a sudden your life is turned upside down. And this, if you understand that that happens throughout your life, you, instead of waiting to get sucker punched, you anticipate and say, okay. It's like the gamers, you know, the gamers don't just sit there. They have learned how to go after that moving target. So it's about a lot. The main part is how you think about stress. You know, if you think about stress, and we'll talk about some of the myths about stress, but the thing is if you can approach stress and say, no matter how horrible, the things that happen here in life are horrible. There's no doubt about it. I've been in warfare. I've had people who work for me been killed. I have had mortars raining in on our position. I have had people try to firefight that when we were driving through, and you could hear the gunfire, or my people had to stop and take me out of the situation so I wasn't in the midst of a firefight. Their job was to keep me safe. You know, that's physical one. What really gets us, though, is the mental game. And the mental game of how we look at stress is about 90% of it's imagined. I know what real stress is, and I think those who have been in combat, that's why sometimes it's hard to adjust coming back, because people get so worried about things that they can't relate to. Mm-hmm. So if you can strengthen both your mind and your body and what you do when you are engaged with stress, and see it as not good or bad, but okay, let's use it. It's here. How do I use it? And I think that that at least is a starting point so that we can use it to our advantage.
Right, right. Well, if the end result is using stress to our advantage, what are we trying to help the person achieve? For example, you say to go from O to O.
And it's also, oh no,
Oh,
to,
yes.
oh, right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
No, it's
Kind of a reframing.
it is a complete reframing, but it's also that emotion that you attach to that.
Mm-hmm.
Because our presence of being affects everyone.
Right.
And if we can have that positive, it's really the difference between, is it more important to be right or to make things better? I think that's what I ask myself a lot, because I'll be in a situation, I'll say, that's wrong. You're hardwired survival mode. You're going to say that's wrong, but it's like, okay, I can't say anything. I can't even, if I'm emanating that energy, people sense it.
Right. Yes.
In things that I teach as well, I have like 7 ways we communicate. Guess what happens if any one of those ways is out of whack, right?
Right.
People have a high detector for inconsistencies. So It's most important that we do it. And I think on a very serious note, if we do want things better, what we're doing right now in our country, in the world, even in our politics, our communities, it's like this toxicity is seeping into everything that we do. And as that toxicity comes in, we have got to be prepared. We have got to know that if we just react, we are not going to do very well. Because reacting and what seems right can be absolutely wrong and enable what's happening and make it worse. I think of when people get angry about social injustices and they protest. Now, some do it like Gandhi, which are saying, I'm a presence. I want you to know that this is happening and that it's not okay. And then there's others who join them who you have no control over, which you have to be careful how you assemble. And they will decide, I'm going to be angry because this is something I need to be angry about. And then they could be the poorest people in the world. And what do? They go and they destroy the stores. They destroy the cars. They destroy housing that maybe it's for low income. They do those things and it's like, wait a minute, stop. That can happen in warfare too, oh, by the way. Some people think it's all about controlling people. But if you believe that we're all part of the same human race, you will say that when we have friction, which we will always have friction, think of it in your family. I mean, talk about any topic and try to get the same opinion. We have friction everywhere, but that doesn't mean that you can't use that for good.
So that's a really interesting point that you've made, that when something happens, we react. So in your lifetime, I'm sure with your military training as well, what tools did they give you, or what should we say to ourselves that will make us pause and not react? Is it a lesson that you learn, or is a practice that you have to keep going to in order to have it so that it's always ingrained? Just give me a little insight into what can help us stop from reacting.
Well, we have to first recognize that reaction is really survival mode that's deeply ingrained in us from early life, beginning of life.
Right.
And it has its own presence. If you need to get out of the way of something that's rolling your way, then you need to do certain things to survive.
Right.
Absent that mindset, the survival mindset, is something that will give you very limited options, and it will also not usually solve what you're trying to solve, not in the long term. And so you've completely, survival mode shuts off wisdom. We have
that's interesting. I like that.
Yes. When you react, you're either going to fight, flight, or shut down. In our companies, and you have entrepreneurs that are listening, the hardest thing is to keep people engaged.
Yes.
It is the hardest thing to do, and we do a pretty poor job of that. There's some leaders who you can find to do a great job of that. But these are all survival mechanisms if they don't do those things. Because if I try to offer up an answer to you, you may ask me a question, great question. Leaders think, hey, you know, I'm coming into the organization, they will love me. No, you're stress because you're a change they can't figure out. So
right.
from the get-go, you have something working against you. And then you ask a question and you think that people should answer you easily. Well, the idea is that's not necessarily so. Do they feel safe? Why would they feel safe around you? And even when people feel safe, less than 50% will offer an answer just because they're reluctant to. It's not just shyness, they're thinking. They're thinking, in fact, brilliantly. You just haven't figured out how to access that.
Yes.
So what causes us stress, what causes this, I believe at the root cause is we aren't working well together. We aren't figuring out those things. And no one was taught, it's not their fault. Who was taught how to be mentally tough? I sure was, and I had to learn it the hard way.
Yep.
And trust me, many times it didn't work very well, but I was the one trying to seek the truth. I have an engineer mindset. I don't know about you, but I have an engineer mindset because I'm always curious how things work. And mostly if something's amiss, it's like in combat, you go to the beat of the drums. You know, you hear the clash, and just like firefighters, police officers, you know, people who go into the public sector who are here to make a difference know that they have to be strong enough to deal with it. And a lot of times we forget that it's better to make things better than to be right. And that's why no matter what sector you're in, we're all human. We're going to make mistakes, and we need a support network, and we need to be strong and disciplined in how we do what we do.
Yeah.
So in thinking that way, the survival mode is the least optimal way to react. And getting to your wisdom requires skills. It requires tools. And I'll explain that with my mentally tough women. The 3 tools that I like to think about in my mind and are the symbol of my company with the shield.
Right.
And so you have to have these things. Then you have to have people who surround you, who keep you at it and keep bringing out your best.
Yes, absolutely.
There's a tiny fraction, I think, believes they need to be yelled at. Everybody else.
I don't know if anybody believes they need to be yelled at. I'd like to find somebody like that.
Well, there's some very successful coaches, and that's how they operate.
Oh, really? They provoke it.
Because people have a low self-esteem, I believe.
Yeah.
And they feel that they don't deserve it. So for the one thing for your audience, I think to help you deal with stress and use it for your advantage is to tell you how brilliant you already are. You are a miracle. Isn't it amazing that you were created so uniquely in this life that we can breathe, we can enjoy the company of each other, we can talk today, and that, you know, it's just, every person I meet has something amazing, just like you. I was so eager to meet you and find out you're taking on this summit. How wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you. And likewise, oh my gosh, look at your record. I mean, woohoo.
But that doesn't mean that everything I do, talking on camera is one of the hardest things I do. Talking is easy. Talking on camera and seeing yourself is like, oh.
I know, that's a whole nother ballgame. But hey, it's coming real natural. So maybe that's another hidden talent of yours that you didn't know you had.
and bringing people to the table, bringing people together to talk about difficult subjects. Being an entrepreneur, think about that as just as life, just as love. It is an extreme sport.
Oh, I like that. Being an entrepreneur is an extreme sport. We're going to highlight that.
Nobody told you that.
I love it.
Nobody. And what they think is there's so many people who give up just by the first little bit of being attacked. And I'm telling you, no, that's where the gold is.
Yes. Keep digging.
If someone's giving you a hard time, I love to have I have a picture, a cartoon where a person is standing up above, being upset and kicking the dirt, and like 4 feet below them is this treasure chest, right? It's like, if you're stuck in that negative mindset and negative actions, like I should be upset at this, or I'm so angry about that. If your audience would just say, how much time do I spend in negative thoughts?
I think that would scare them, quite frankly.
Well, I think it should. I think that thinking negatively, how is that helping you move forward? It does everything but take you off the sidelines and maybe moving in the other direction, away from what you said you wanted to do.
Right, exactly.
And when this is working, maybe you'll have my voice or someone else's voice on your shoulder. And even though someone does something so irritating that you just feel compelled that you've got to say something, my point is if you're going to go negative, you need to keep it to yourself. It's like sharing COVID, it's like you want to share it. You have no control how it's going to affect people, but you can be certain it's going to hurt people. Certain.
So then are you saying that you never should go negative on someone?
I would never use that word. I would never use that word. I would say, because never's a negative word.
Yeah.
That's how I got my husband. That's how I got my husband. I'd been divorced before. Some of your people may have been divorced before. And I think I said something like, I'm never going to go out with another military guy, and most certainly not a West Pointer, and most definitely not a classmate, because I had done that and practiced that before and it didn't work out. So I was done. I said, I'm never going to do it. And then I ended up meeting my husband. Now that's the only time I can tell you that I'm aware of it worked when I use that word. But most of the time you're going to get exactly what you don't want when you use those words. So the more positive you are, just think about it. It's only 7% words in communication that people are listening to. They listen to tone and everything else. Like you could say something and I could go, oh, really? Or I could go, oh, really? Oh, really? I'm excited about that. Tone is huge. That if it has a negative tinge to it, or your face. I have a whole exercise on your resting face.
Oh, wow. That should be fun.
You have to remind your face to, whatever you're thinking, you have to remind your face to go along with that.
To go along with that. Well, wow, that was great insight. So I'll just move on here to the next question. Now I keep thinking about the face. So what are some of the myths and misconceptions about stress in our lives? Now that's a big one to unwrap.
I'll cover 4 today, and more may come into the conversation, but I'm going to cover 4 key ones that come up all the time. One is that stress gets a bad rap.
Right.
People almost unanimously, unless they're talking athletics, athletics, they get it. It's like, well, wait a minute. It's just like the same thing. And I heard a quote the other day that, stress, I'm being buried by stress. Well, what if you're being planted? And you need to be planted before you can grow your roots and do that, right?
Interesting. See, it's perspective. You're turning it around. I like that.
I have to say, I'm like many probably in your audience will be, I've been divorced. I've been divorced twice. And I was even told that it's your fault. You're the one at fault. And I gave you the scenario, which I said in my mind what I was going to think about. And of course I got the opposite, which in my case turned out rarely, but turned out perfectly. I'm going on 21 years of being married to the man of my life.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Because if you come up with these beliefs in your head and you're not open to every possibility, you will miss the treasure that's right in front of you. So you can't be restrictive. You need to get rid of all that judgmental language.
Yes.
And stop judging stress so harshly, because we wouldn't get anything done without stress.
Yes.
And I'll leave it at that. You wouldn't have a goal. You have to learn to be, my favorite thing is being comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And because of that, once you get that every time you're uncomfortable, there's an opportunity, you will stop thinking of stress in a negative way and think of it like exercise. Okay. And then let's go to the second one. So the second one is that people are often told the solution that people give other people is just chill out. Well, that's a combat word anyway.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah. If I told you, "Look, Jane, just chill out. Just chill out." That's like, again, the tone and everything else matters, but that's just not a word you want to use. But I would tell you, what if I want this stress?
Mm-hmm.
I went to West Point. I can't tell you how many people told me to quit. I had a boyfriend.
Really?
He's passed away since, but at the time he kept saying, "Well, I'll marry you. Leave. You're complaining about it." Well, no. That's not what I'm saying. It's hard.
Yeah, it's meant to be hard.
But it's not meant for you to tell me, "Stop doing it," because it's hard. Struggle is good if it's I wanted to be a better officer. I wanted to be the best officer I could because I knew that things weren't going to get easier in life. And I wanted to be
growing is struggling. I mean, we all have to grow. And if you don't, like you said, struggle or just push yourself to move beyond that, then you're really not going to grow.
Exactly.
Right.
So sometimes you choose it. You say, okay, I'm going to go in the health profession. I'm sure the people who thought about the health profession didn't think about pandemics in their mind, right?
Sure.
And then you think about police, when they get to the nitty gritty and they meet people and they see them on their worst day. They choose to do it because they know they're making a difference. It's hard, but they're making a difference. And then what if your parents fall ill, or your children fall ill, or your spouse falls ill? Are you going to leave them on the doorstep and say, "Nope, I'm not going to take on that stress"? I don't think so. Yeah. And so that's not very good advice. You do need things. I have something we'll talk about later, extreme stress. There's things that when you feel yourself under extreme stress to do, and that I'm going to be offering to your audience. I don't want to use any more time here, but when you're in extreme stress, you just need to get control back into your life and set yourself up, like eating properly and sleeping properly and doing those things. That's what you would normally do, because if you don't do that, you will die. Yes. You will not survive. But you have to. The myth is that you can just offload stress. I think that's crazy. You want to get people. What people can accomplish will always astound you. If you have faith in human beings, and although their presence may look like they don't know much, how would you know if you didn't ask them the right question? I find women who are 85 years old, and I ask them a question, and their keen insights are so profound, nobody asked them. Or you look at the little hotshots. You talk a 4-year-old who's unconstrained with all the social things of telling them all they can't do. You ask a 4-year-old, guaranteed you tee up an engineer problem to a 4-year-old who is really aware, you have a good chance of solving whatever it is. Stop being constrained and stop telling people to eliminate stress, but look at how do they get prepared for more? Because if we don't, there's a thing called brittleness syndrome that they studied in universities, where kids who'd never experienced failure, and this is why I love to give the same lessons, things I wish I'd known when I was going off to college. I love to train, that's a perfect audience, or mothers who are professionals who want to climb the ladder still and want to do things just like any other colleague, right? They want to be highly successful and they have a high attention to detail. These are ones who put themselves under extreme stress. And so rather than keep telling them, whenever you have a tough time, rather than bolstering them and telling them how great they are and how wonderful it is you're taking it, they're telling them, "Oh, just quit that job. That's too much work," because other people are using their values. Right. So you can teach them, like we're talking about, give them the skills, teach them how to take on much more stress and use it to your advantage. Yep. Right. And the third one we have really talked about, what you see is not what you get. People see an incident and they decide to go in that survival mode and react. And it scares the bejeebies out of me because they are absolutely not using any of their wisdom, nothing of what they've learned in life, nothing. And they just want to be bent on destruction. Right. If you can't contain them, then it will be so much worse. And I love to be surprised. I love it when I'm giving a talk to people and you look around the audience, and I talked about body language and whatever. Right. And you look out on the audience and you'll see someone who's like, oh, And you're thinking, oh no, they don't like what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And then for me, I know that's not what's happening, but I do need to focus on someone who's got a really beautiful energy that they can inside and out they have. And I'll focus on that, or I won't focus at all. I'll just kind of blur everybody.
Yeah,
right?
that's interesting, because we are all responsible for the energy we bring into the room, because it affects other people. And it's interesting that you say that when you're on stage presenting, that you look for that friendly face or that individual or individuals who will give you that energy back that you're looking for, to feed your energy, but also to make you feel uplifted. Yeah,
Yes.
that's
And the funny thing is that I can't tell you how many times that person has come up to me later, the one who had the troubled face,
right.
and they'll go, I loved because you're standing there waiting for them to come up. It's like, oh, this is going to be really bad.
Yeah,
Because we still judge a book by its cover, and they'll come up, and it's not what you think. They convey how appreciative they are, and that they made them think. And sometimes my talks get like church, when everyone gets quiet. And sometimes I just want that energy coming back, but they're thinking.
Yes.
And sometimes thinking is good when it's silent. So
Yes.
what you see is not what you think. And especially, I would caution people to say, if you jump to a negative conclusion, you need to ask as if giving everyone and yourself the benefit of the doubt. That's a tip.
Okay.
And then the final one is, it's sad, this one, but it's true. We all do it. People believe that they're really good at handling stress.
People what?
Feel that they're good at handling stress.
Right.
And that is a dangerous thing, because I've studied it my entire life, and I am still in situations where I know I can do better, but those ingrained habits just push you to convey maybe an energy or question, and I may not say the words, but the energy's still there, so it's always a work in progress. Right. You will never be good enough unless you can part the seas. If you can part the seas and everyone's happy and joyful when you walk in the room, then you'll probably be like the Dalai Lama or something like that, right?
Mother Teresa, yeah.
Or Mother Teresa, right?
Yeah.
But short of that, I can't. I've had a lot of conversations with people, and they'll say, I used to talk about positivity all the time, and then I realized people under stress can't talk. They're not even there. That's like a meta level. Positive people are at the meta level if they really are authentic. But there's a lot of people who believe they're positive. And I was talking to this woman at a event, and she said, oh, I'm really a positive person. And then we continue, and I ask probing questions. The next thing I'm hearing is she and her husband have an argument almost every day. And I'm
very positive. I don't know. I get time out of it.
But that doesn't match.
Yeah. But isn't that interesting? That's her perception, that she thinks she is a positive person.
People think that they don't need stress skills. And right. I'm telling you, Jane, we are so desperate. Everywhere I look, I know that people go negative because they have no stress skills. They cannot understand friction, because if they did, they would see as clearly as me. I call it an interception strategy. You can go negative, but if you do, it's almost always an interception strategy. You're going to either have the ball intercepted, they're going to win the game, it's going in the other direction. You are going to lose control, and you're not going to be able to make it up.
That's a great point. I love that. Yeah, it's the consequence of going negative. So that's wonderful.
And I think what we have to look at is life has obstacles.
Yes.
One of the things I learned at West Point was it was a hard lesson to learn. It took me 4 years to get it right. 4 years to get it right. And this was our indoor obstacle course. The obstacle course at West Point, you can go online and you can see the masters at it. You can go there and you can look it up. West Point Indoor Obstacle Course. You can see a woman who broke the record and a man who broke the record. All I can tell you is, if you think of a job or life or having a family or anything you want to apply to it, it may sound like the fairy tale. I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to be in charge of my own company. Well, you know what? It's a lot like the fairy tale that doesn't always come true. And you have to know it. To me, life is an obstacle course, but that's not something to be negative. It just is. And West Point's obstacle course, I'll just talk about a couple of the obstacles. It's a grueling course. In a gym that if you finish it, you feel like your throat's been slit because the air's so dry when you're
wow. Yeah.
But that's a complicating one that hits you at the end of it, right? You're not even aware of it at the beginning of it. But you go through obstacles. Some are easier than others, like the low crawl. They have things that you have to crawl under and go.
Right.
But the first major obstacle for me was this 8-foot ledge. It had a ledge. It's got a lip on it that goes up. And it's 8 feet high. Now, for most of the guys, they can leap up, hit the ledge, pull themselves up, and go over. For women, we didn't have the upper body strength in the same way. A couple of women could have done that. But for me, I had to figure out how to get my foot higher than my head so that I would hit the ledge, swing my leg up, catch my heel in it, and roll over. Okay, so that took practice. And I brought in why in life we need coaches. We need people to help us who've been through this, who can give you the tips and the tools and the things to understand. And I did. I was not afraid. If you're there open to learn and stay humble and think you'll never know everything, you just want to keep getting better. I would watch other people, but it was really helpful to understand their mindset as they approach these obstacles.
Right.
And then the other obstacle that was very tough that I had great joy because I actually accomplished this one. This was truly psychological. There's a 10-foot wall that you have to clamber over, 10 feet. And so when you run full blast at this wall and you stick the center of the wall with your foot as you're hurling yourself up, you can then flip over. Yikes. That's a very unpretty picture if you don't make it. But for me, that was one thing I actually quickly got. Okay, so there's some things in life you're going to quickly get, but you do need to be shown because running straight at the wall is going to hurt you badly. If you know where to plant your foot and when to pull yourself, the energy up and then grab it, you flip over.
Wow.
But the one, I'll just talk, there's many obstacles, but the one that really got me for 4 years was the rope. Okay, so you do a whole bunch of obstacles and you do overhead things and, all these things. So your wrists are tired, your body's tired, you can't breathe. And you get to the rope, and for upper body strength, it's really nice if you have it. And if you don't have it, you have to have technique. And I didn't have the technique to get up that rope. And the first year I didn't get up it at all. You get penalized in time, which, get a lower grade. And then the second year I got up it and I actually fell down. I got up to the top and my hand seized. It was like a cramp. It was
right.
And luckily I didn't hurt myself, but I fell about 15 feet straight down the rope. And then they penalize you again. So by my 4th year, I'll just say, I had figured out a trick of the trade and I did it. And then I got to the bottom of the rope. And by that time I'm yelling at the rope. I'm shaking my hands out and I'm giving myself a moment to go up it. And I went up it and I got an A in the course.
Wow.
But
I bet that felt fantastic.
It did. Now today I probably wouldn't get it because the women every year got better and better. Our year they had no statistics on women for physicality stuff, so everything was graded on a bell curve. Right. And the women are just the scores are so close now in many events. The sit-ups it's the same, push-ups and the runs a little bit different, but not much. The women are catching and the men are getting better. The men had a pretty steady state and they got challenged too. So everybody, we challenge, which is a wonderful thing. We challenge each other. So that's when you're thinking about the obstacles, that's what you have to do. So if I may, I can answer your question on mentally tough women if you'd like, because that's
actually, in fact, that was my next question. How did you come up with this concept of mentally tough women, the shield, the sword, the helmet, and the stress skills and tools that are just like mentally tough skills and tools embodied in the goddess of wisdom, Athena. I love that. So yes, please unwrap that for us.
I could let you give that. That was really great.
Thank you. It's your concept.
Some of you, many of them have probably not heard of Ares, A-R-E-S, Ares, not the celestial, but Ares. Ares, the one who was the god of war. He was the male version, god of war. We don't remember him because he was brutal. All he did was fight, and everything was about battles and being brutal, okay? His sister, Athena, everybody knows today. You just have to look up any awards. Athena is everywhere. And why? She's the goddess of war. And guess what? I'd forgotten till I'd done the Mentally Tough Women that it's West Point's symbol. It is on West Point.
Is it really? I didn't know that. That
is the helmet, is Athena's helmet. And it happened, I think, in the late 1800s. But it was not always, it's started 1802. So
isn't that interesting? Because they didn't even admit women till much later on. So that
you could have a goddess, but you couldn't have a person. You know, it's an inconsistency.
A double standard.
But I didn't even really think about being Athena's helmet, even though it was used a few times. It just didn't click to me. Right. But Athena, the goddess of war and goddess of wisdom, only used warfare when you had to. And she had champions and those who had the character to want to help and do well and for the betterment of good. So I thought about that. And Mentally Tough, I say women because I know women and I know what women are up against, because I've had everything from societal things against me of what I was, not who I was. I've been in engineering, which is another field of endeavor where there's very
dominated.
The West Point had no women till we got there. The Army had very few women when I entered, and roles were prohibited. I mean, my aunt was one of the first electrical engineers in the University of Washington. She couldn't even go on ship trials that she worked on to put the electrical system of ships, because she was a woman. You know,
this runs in your family. Breaking barriers. I think it's wonderful.
And so as we look at that, and what happens is that we find that there are barriers every year. It's not just our time. It feels real for every year. So it's always something, we can always be better. So struggle is good. But in that struggle, you have to protect yourself. And being mentally tough means you have these kind of tools. So let me show you the first one.
Okay.
One is a shield.
Oh, wow. Look at
that. This is one you can hide behind like Wonder Woman.
Yeah, right.
If it's coming in, you use it to deflect the stuff. Mine has a heart. This is a heart.
Oh,
so you have the toughness. Looks like a sword here too, but the toughness part. But you have this. This is not just to protect yourself, which you need to be strong enough to hold it and to do that, but it's also to shield others. You know, in military formations, we go into those with the shield so that you can protect everybody who's around you as well.
Right.
And sometimes you may need to throw it over this way because someone else is being attacked. So I teach tools and skills that allow you to be able to be very adept at not only just protecting yourself, but protecting those around you and teaching them what they need to know.
Wow.
So that's
I love it.
The second symbol that I have is the sword.
The sword, yeah.
Now some people think about the sword as I have a fascination or love of combat. Are you kidding me? I don't know anybody in the military who wants to die on our side. Right. I mean, maybe on the other side they do, but none of us want to be the bombers that go out and I'm going to do it, because loss of life is the ultimate failure. It's the ultimate failure. Any loss of life is the ultimate failure. But you must use your skills judiciously and your tools judiciously. You need to know that things will come at you that you need to parry. You need to be fast enough that if a sword is coming right at you, you can move to the side and push it to the side.
Right.
And at some point, people are such bad behaviors, and that's a terrible way, but they're misguided behaviors that they're hurting people and they don't realize how that's hurting even what they want to do. And so sometimes you have to pin them. You have to
Oh.
pin them down. It's not about running them through. Justice and things can do that, but you must pin them to stop them from doing harm. It's
Right.
trying to prevent harm. So I have a number of tools and things that I teach people that you can use in that way it allows you to go after them, but not in the way you think. And it helps to neutralize that harm.
Okay.
And then the final one is, which you can see in Athena's helmet too, but is the helmet.
Oh, it's beautiful.
This is to protect your wisdom.
Oh, okay.
You want to protect everything that's up here,
Mhm.
because if you do not, you will go to survival mode and not be thinking about how to do what you need to do.
Because the survival mode blocks the wisdom.
Absolutely. It limits options to really 3: fight, flight, or shut down.
Right.
And any one of those in combat is deadly. People who are in battle are not, they may at moments be in survival mode, but their motivation is to protect their wisdom and not waste any life.
Exactly.
It's all about protecting life.
Yeah. I love the symbolism of all those tools and the shield and the sword. It really feeds into the audience, because we have probably a lot of entrepreneurs, business women, executives, and all of these tools that you're providing us help them shift or look at stress in a different way, so that they can not look at it, like you said, as a negative, but something that can empower them or give them power to move them forward, just depending on.
Yes, every one of those tools, even if you don't know all the ones that I've collected in my lifetime, or you can use some of the ones we've already discussed, is asking the most powerful tool they have in all that entire arsenal is the effective question. The effective question has the power to influence people to do exactly what you need them to do without them ever thinking it was anything but their own idea.
Wow. How do we learn to give the effective question?
Well, we go through a whole lot of exercises with that. And
that's a whole layered thing. Okay.
That is a layered thing.
Fascinating.
If you don't know how to handle extreme stress, you will never even have the time to think about a question. If you understand the fundamentals, I have a stress basics course. If you understand that's kind of the rules of engagement, then the questions will come to you that do not violate those rules, that build you up and reinforce you.
Right.
And it'll prompt people to take better actions that will be sustainable. And how it translates in real life is, I know we all get challenged in relationships. Even the best of relationships, you're going to have some friction. But imagine, if you will, people who you worked with, like me, 40 years ago, and then you see them and all you feel is, I can't wait to be with that person.
Oh, yeah.
Contrasted to some classmates of mine who saw some of the people who were the worst hazes and treated them badly while they were cadets. The difference is blood leaving their face and wanting to pass out. They see that person and they have a very different reaction. That's the ability to handle stress. Absolutely is a great predictor for your ultimate success.
Yes, I love that. Can you repeat that sentence? I love that.
How well you handle stress predicts your ultimate success. It does. In life, in love, in business. I had someone just 2 days ago, he was my number 2 in combat. And that person, we had lost touch. He truly saved my life. He told me, he said, you're not going to this project site unless I go first. I need to check it out. You need people who are willing to do that for you. He went out and they got blown up and attacked. He got medevaced, and he comes back, and I just realized he gave me this gorgeous horse. I love horses. He gave me this gorgeous horse, and I'm thinking, and then over the years, we lost a bit of touch, but we just got reconnected. And he called me back, and it was as if nothing had happened, and he's bringing his wife to Hawaii, and I can't wait, and hopefully they'll stay with us. You know, it's
wonderful. Oh my gosh, that's
and you,
fantastic.
but imagine handling stress in combat when all those things I described earlier are happening.
Right.
How is that possible? Is that years, West Point was the one that jump-started me, and then you go through those years of being able to hone those skills and deal with it in a way and understand what's most important. Whereas people who stay in survival mode and just react, or have dysfunctional families that they grew up with, and they know that they're bad because they have low self-esteem, and they are always second guessing themselves, and every little thing is a little obstacle becomes a huge hurdle that stops them. Usually 5% before they have success, right? They get stopped. So that's the difference in being able to handle stress. So entrepreneurs, to me, are some of the bravest people that we have, because they are on the front line and engaging people and trying new things, and that can be exciting, but you have to also be prepared for adverse weather. If it's an extreme sport, you're doing it in scary conditions, like really, you know, if you're driving on the road, you've got a sheet of water or a sheet of ice. You know, you just have to prepare for the worst conditions so you know how to react and not skip a beat and just keep going on in your careers or in your love life. I mean, I live the dream right now. Now, before, after I wrote a chapter. If they go to the author page on Amazon, I wrote a chapter in a book called Breaking Through or Reinventing After Failure. And in that case, I'd gone through my second divorce, and I felt all of us will feel like a failure at some point in our lives. But if you can grow from that and be mentally tough and draw from somewhere, you just need something to help pick yourself back up. Right. And once you do, you can astound yourself in everything that you always wanted to achieve, because you can work into that.
Yeah, don't give up is basically, and it helps you, give you the tools to not give up.
Stay the course. Stay the course rather than never. Don't give up. It's our language is so laden with negative words. I just want them to always talk what they want, not what they want to avoid. Talk with what you want instead of what you want to avoid. And catching yourself is so hard, because however old we are, we have these habits. And I'm telling you from my extreme experiences is that the more focused you can be on what you want and staying there rather than getting distracted by all the noise that's negative, you will achieve it so much faster, and people will want to be with you. People will want to join you, want to help you, offer their ideas, and spot out when you're in the wrong way, even though you're feeling really strong and I'm heading off the cliff. You want someone there to stop you and hold you and say, wait a minute.
Like your dear friend who said, no, I'm going to check this before you get there, because I need to. Well, that was wonderful. I do like what you said about reframing the words, because we talk negatively, because I said never give up, but you said stay the course, which is much more positive. So that is
what you want. What is it you want? That's an effective question. What do you want? What's the best outcome you want at this time? And if you say, I want to do this and this person's fighting me. Well, if I want that, why would you get distracted by the person who's yelling at you and being nasty? Because they're just they're like the games where they're trying to grab you and pull you down. And you have to no, I'm going toward the goal. I'm going to keep every step as focused on there, not being distracted.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I have one more question here for you. We talked about being a hero, or excuse me, that was in our conversation that you and I had on the phone. So we talked about being the hero in the story of your life. And I just love that statement that you said. And what does it mean, and why are we drawn to heroes in stories? I just find that very powerful.
I think that from a military perspective, heroes are never someone who believes they are heroes. They are very humble. They always credit everybody else, but you know that their presence of being is lifting everybody up and bringing out their best. And so those, through the toughest times, they'll have humor. I've heard of pilots where all their mechanisms went out and the pilot sitting on the middle of the floor in the main part of the cabin, pulling on cables and things, cracking jokes as he's doing pulling the right cables so that the plane will land safely. I mean,
Right.
That's crisis under pressure. Those are the ones who know it's a tough job, and bravery is about knowing there's a job to do and going out and doing it no matter how difficult the task may be. And just saying it needs to get done.
So we should go towards being the hero in our story, getting whatever it is that we feel is our purpose or our passion and getting it done.
And getting it done and
staying the course.
Staying the course. It's never about each of us. It's always about the greater good.
Right.
Because if we help the greater good, we help ourselves.
Right. Yeah.
It's not about the I, it's all about the we. And for some people, they're so much in survival mode, like, if I don't do this, or I make this shortcut, or I stomp on this person, I'm never going to get ahead. And it's like, well, you may take one step forward, and then you're going to take, in a year from now, 10 steps back, because people will not follow you. They will not support you because you no longer hold that position. Rather than looking over your shoulder every moment because you've treated someone badly, what if you just treated everyone as your teammate in the world, and honored them and just engaged them as if they were already?
Yes, right. And then, of course, that's all about teamwork, collaboration. We couldn't survive on our own on this planet, let alone do the work that we do. So yeah, it really, all of it feeds back into your life.
Heroes are like catalysts to me. They're the catalysts that cause something amazing to happen. When they're in the room, they just set everyone on fire to work together, to come up with these brilliant ideas. And it's better than you could ever imagine or have known from the past. That's the other amazing thing, that when you can handle stress, you realize you're so limited by what people know today, that if you frame things the unconstrained way, you will have amazing breakthroughs in things.
I love that.
Love it for the rest of your life.
Yeah. Heroes are like catalysts. We'll have to highlight that. And there was one story that you told me that I thought was fascinating, because I love that you wove it into what the purpose of what you're speaking on right now. And you just mentioned the concept of possibility versus magic. You said we can't conceive what is possible if we narrowly define it at the beginning. To that, you used an analogy of a classical music artist versus a jazz artist. Share that story with the audience.
Yes. Okay, so it's what's possible when you bring people together. And again, narrowly, it's emphasizing what we were talking about. And in this case, we had an event where each person is unique and cherished, right? But then you bring a person who's trained classically in music with someone who is like a jazz musician. And how do you think that's going to happen? I just thought, they're musicians, they'll be fine. But there's something else though. What they did is they tested them with different scenarios. They had never met before. They brought them in. They had, well, actually, I have to say, this was just the jazz musicians this was acted on. Because when they brought the classical with the jazz could accommodate the classical, but the classical was pretty down a narrow lane. And in some ways you need that narrow lane, but in other ways, not so much. You need to know when the limits of going down a plan that you decide on and work the plan and stick to the plan. If you stick to the plan, no matter what's going on around you, you will never take advantage of what's possible, because you've narrowly defined it like a classical musician would, trained by the experts from before, and they do it beautifully. They just execute it beautifully. But the jazz musicians that we saw, they came out and they had never played with each other before, and they were given 30 minutes to practice with one song that had sheet music. And so they came out to our group, a large group, and they played what they had practiced. And it sounded great. I mean, it did. It sounded great. And then the second piece that they had was sheet music that they had never practiced together, and they played that. And then the third one was they just jammed. They just did what jazz musicians do, and they just played a song.
Wow.
And I asked you, I said, which one do you think was the best song?
The last one.
The last one. I didn't get that until I experienced it. I just didn't get that.
Yeah,
but the reason is that they had rules. You still have to have roles and responsibilities in any business. Anything you do, you have to be clear on roles and responsibilities, because if you overlap too much, you can have some overlap, but you overlap too much and you step on each other, just like musicians. Musicians are trained to be not only good in their instrument, the jazz musicians, but to also understand how to play with other people. Mm-hmm. You have to play well.
Right.
It's the classic opposing, not playing well in the playground, sharing, all those things. And so the really great jazz musicians know how to shine when it's their moment, because everyone gets a chance to shine at some point in the song. Mm-hmm. But they also need to lead in and let the others shine and shine a light on them, play in the background, but enough to support and make that more brilliant. And so that
to be able to see the possibilities.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. And then magic happens, because when we were sitting there listening to it, it was just profoundly impactful. Mm-hmm. Because one, I knew the background. They'd never played this song.
Right.
They had just met and came together. And in my discussions, I talk about how to connect quickly and deeply with people. Mm-hmm. There are things that you can do to make that easier, because imagine if everyone who came into your life becomes someone who is special. You don't know quite when they're going to play a big role, but first you enjoy just being with them and getting to know them. And then when an issue comes up, if you're really attuned to them, you'll know, and they'll be there for you, just like in this song. Mm-hmm. And so I do love that we get very constrained about what we know instead of what's possible. And when we think in possibilities, we still understand the real world, maybe not today, but what will it take to get there? Mm-hmm. And a lot of people will say, well, you can't do it that way. Well, some of us just say, watch me.
Yeah, I was going to say, watch me. Yeah, right. Anything is possible. Yeah, for sure. But
maybe not at that moment, maybe not at the way you thought, but I'll get you. When you get people excited about what you're trying to achieve, especially if you're trying to make things better,
right?
They will figure it out.
They figure it out. Yeah.
They've done mathematical problems with making it into a game. They have done research problems. They make it into a game, and you're going to find someone, whether it's 4 years old or 94 years old or 104, they'll figure it out if you give it to them. Yeah. And so there's really not when people get really distressed about the world today, I'd say there's so much important opportunities out there, but we do need leadership. Leadership is not about controlling. It's about bringing out the best in everyone and allowing them to work together and be that catalyst to help them be good working together. And also raising the flag when people start going off. I think I don't know if we talked about this, but people used to say my meetings were exciting.
Oh, wow.
And I said, really? This is my equal opportunity person, right? Who's looking to make sure you are doing things properly and engaging everyone, and it's inclusivity. And they said, yeah, and there were two reasons for that. I believe there were two big reasons for that. One is that you realize that there's some people who like to speak all the time and tell their opinions, and then there's others who, unless you ask them the right question at the right time, in the right tone, they're not going to respond to you. Mm-hmm. And when a comment would come out on the floor, I have two categories of toxic comments. There's lesser ones, but these are the toxic ones that can hurt an organization. In any conversation you have, you understand brainstorming. There's no judgment supposed to be, right? But meetings seem to get its own kind of rules. And so a meeting we would have, there's the obvious ones who are the yellers. Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm sure you've worked for some of those. Mm-hmm. I worked for many people.
I'm sure.
It was their job to scream. I had people spitting in my face a couple inches from my face.
Horrible.
You wonder where your mind goes. Mine was, man, no wonder you don't get a date. You have the worst breath in the world.
Oh.
You have to come up. It was a terrible comment, but you have to come up with a way to deal with it and then I would smile, which would get me in more trouble.
Oh, yeah.
I wouldn't say anything. I wouldn't say that. That was what my brain was thinking. But, people are deeply disturbed today. People are deeply disturbed, but you cannot go there with them. It's not about going there with them. You go where they want to go and help them get there. And
Right.
so in the meeting, we would have a discussion and be about important topics, and someone would jump on it and say something that was kind of pretty toxic. We never allowed that. It was just something, but you cannot fight that with yelling at them. I would always tell them, I would say, okay, and I'd stop the meeting. That was the exciting part. They never knew when I was going to stop the meeting. We would be discussing something and I would stop the meeting. I'd say, okay, time out. We're going to talk about this. You said, I don't give any tone. You said this. And I say exactly what they said. I don't give any tone. And then I'd say, I have some thoughts on that, but I would really be interested in what everyone else has to say. And then the others are like, whoa.
Yeah, they weren't expecting that.
I was like, I'm pulling it out of my chest, what you just told me, because it was like, you said this, and it was like, there was nothing I could say from there because you didn't want to hear, right?
Right.
But they're laughing and they're talking to each other. Okay, so the one is what I call a cockroach attack. That's the very toxic things that come out of your mouth. Think about them like, I don't know, anybody, maybe you like cockroaches.
No, not at all.
So if you think about any negative tone, negative comment that comes out of your mouth is very much like a cockroach. Okay? It is going to spew out. It is icky. It will land. It will scuttle away. It'll come back for another day. You don't know when. It will multiply like
boy.
hordes of it.
It's enough to not want to say it.
And trying to get rid of it once it's out is almost impossible, right? You have to do a major detoxification. But we allow those kind of comments happening every single day. In every sector, those are happening every single day. And I'm telling you, that's all I see are the cockroaches. I'm like, I don't have enough time for that. How do I focus on what I can influence?
Right.
And what I can influence is helping people handle stress so they're not contributors, they're not enablers, and they can work it. But the second type of comment is much more dangerous. The other one's icky, but you're probably not going to die from it. Okay? The second comment is what I call a termite invasion. That's the subtle.
Sounds bad.
That's the subtle comment. That'll never work. Why would you say that? That's just stupid. It's the little.
Who are you to think you can do that?
And if you allow that in your organization at any time, if you don't have a very high standard of treating people with respect, that's what it means. Treat people with respect is those comments are not allowed. They just need to work on, they have something to say. I'm not saying they don't have something to say, but if you can't say it in a way that's productive, then wait. Come back tomorrow and say it in a way that people won't be offended. Or do it in a way we're all laughing by the time you say it. I had one guy, I had paper wads that very small paper wads we would throw at each other when those kind of comments would come up. And I had one guy, he walked into the room and he was so stressed out for that day. He took the whole bucket, put it on his head, and they all fell on his head. And then he said what he had to say. But we were laughing, so it was, we refused.
Yeah, that's hysterical. But moving that into, I love that whole concept, because if you think of that, the termite and the cockroach, it also has a lot to do with our self-speak. Because when we're moving out of our comfort zone, when we're, working to be greater than what we've been doing, so we get a lot of that self-talk. But if we start to reframe it in the sense of what you were talking about as well, because it's not just what we share with others, a lot of time it's what we share with ourselves that gets us in trouble. But I love if we can reframe that and saying, okay,
that is so important. That I often forget it, but who are we hardest on? But
ourselves.
And for your people, the awareness is the first step.
Right.
I was told we make like 30,000 negative comments about ourselves, to ourselves every day.
Wow.
Isn't that like we have 60,000 thoughts or things and like 20 or 30,000 of them are negative? You know, being aware is the first step.
Right.
And then having things to replace that with, and understand, like it's like giving you a new pair of sunglasses. I'm trying to give you, it's the same view. The facts are the same. I'm not changing the facts. What I'm changing are how you look at those facts and then see how you can use them to your advantage. Use them to benefit people around you, benefit your sense of well-being, which is vital. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely true.
I absolutely, and I'm going to keep thinking they're cockroaches and termites, so that will stop me from.
Yeah, when they come out of your mouth, it's like, because with the termites, it's not the single comment, it's when you have a whole bunch of comments, the structure will fall. In Hawaii, we have it all the time. The ground termites can take down a house in a year. So if you have termites in there, each one looks so little and so cute. You know, if you take a look, they're really not ugly. They're not like cockroaches. They're kind of cute, and they bore. They're pretty productive, like in engineering. But when they're all working together, that thing will start sagging, and then it just takes a single comment. And everyone wants to blame the person who made the single comment, but it's everything that came before that was allowed. And so why my things were exciting is they never knew when I was going to stop the meeting. And the other piece was I made sure everyone engaged, because under those conditions, you can use effective questions that if I haven't heard from someone, I can ask an effective question that will make them feel comfortable to contribute. Even if we're ready to end the meeting. How many times have you been ending a meeting and someone says, anyone have any questions?
Yeah. But the meeting's over.
And the person who, oh, by the way, has that nugget, when something goes wrong later, like going off the cliff when someone's not pulling it back, later something bad will happen and they'll make a comment, something to the effect of, oh, I could have told you that. I knew that was going to happen.
Yeah.
And people want to choke them. Why? It's you who didn't make that effort to make sure everyone contributed and gave felt safe enough to give their insights on your issue.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Deb, oh my gosh, you have given us so much incredible food for thought and tools and suggestions. I know I have here written before we wrap that I have that you wanted to give our audience some closing thoughts where you have here, I care deeply about improving the lives of others, et cetera, et cetera. So I just wanted to hand that over to you and give you the space to do that.
Thank you. I really sincerely, after what I've been through in my life, it's been a mission of mine to figure out how can I reach people to want to learn these things, to see the power that when you understand just even a hint of some of the things that we've talked about today, how much more you can get done, how much better you feel about yourself, how much more supported the people around you do. And so what I've done, it's taken years to come up with this content, and I've created 2 courses for people. Because I said, if there was one thing that I could, or something I could share with people that I think would be life-changing from now until, maybe you didn't get it right in the beginning and you suffered some real pain in your life or going through hard times, what are some things like a lifeline? That's extreme stress. I call it the lifeline. It's the extreme stress one that, hey, I get it. I've been there. Here are things that I had to do. These were must-do things that you had to look at and make it your own. But you have to do these things, because without it, you cannot last. You will fall by the wayside and you will harm yourself. And that's the worst thing we want to do. So it's called Extreme Basics. And if they go to our website, which is mentallytoughwomen.com, and it's / and your name. Okay, it's your name at the end. And they can go to the site and sign up, and the first 20 will get that course for free, and then the rest will be put in for a drawing to get, I will provide content. It's to leave yourself, things we've talked about, content, papers, how to speak well, everything that's related to this. I'm throwing off content now. I've gotten in the groove. I started with these 2 courses,
Good.
but I wanted these 2 courses because I believe without these 2 fundamental courses, that the extreme stress is the one where you're hyperventilating. The other one is called Stress Basics. It's on udemy.com. You can go check out the courses right now, and there are lessons that you can observe. But I'm giving the link through you that they can go and make sure that they find it, and then the emails will have the address how to get those courses. Because it's just like a primer. It's just like, well, I don't even know how to pick this up. I don't even know how to pick this up. How do you, it's just a primer to say, know what these are how you use them. Even someone who has a hammer can do amazing things.
Right.
Someone with a chainsaw can do amazing things with enough practice and skill. And I can help with that.
Absolutely. And I have, go ahead.
Well, this course will help you understand that. It may on the surface seem pretty simple, but it's not. It is, I will tell you, the majority of people, 95% of the world doesn't understand this. And my skills worked not only at West Point to help me survive it, which I needed to do, and then in 17 years later, I'm in combat, or 23 years later, I was in combat. And it worked incredibly well under the harshest conditions. So what I have works at home, works at work, works in your community. I work in nonprofit world. It helps you focus on what you want.
Right.
And understand that the real world won't go away, but you can still be positive, productive, and capable, and do these businesses, because businesses are a tough thing, but they are the lifeblood of this country. We need women entrepreneurs to succeed because they will have heart. You're going to talk to Deb Lewis soon. She wrote this book called Heartfelt Leadership. For those who are going into business, you want to understand what that looks like. And I was honored to be part of this book project with Deb Lewis. So please read it. Go online to get it at Amazon or where on the other places that's available. But please go to our website using Jane's name at the end of that, and Apple APPL. It's Jane APPLEGATH.
Very good. That's good.
mentallytoughwomen.com/your name, and they go there and they can sign up at any time to get more information on this important topic that we've had today. Because we need to stop the suffering, unnecessary suffering. Struggle is good, suffering is a choice.
Yes, absolutely.
And life will not get easier. I'm sorry. It's never going to get easier, but it will get better. And you can really, really enjoy.
We need to be here and present when it gets better, because that's the whole thing. We just don't want to stay the course. I've got that in my mind.
We cannot afford that. And we can come out of any disaster stronger, better, and create new patterns. It's our chance to create new patterns after this.
Absolutely. And I did want to say, we've got, I'll just read a little bit here about the course, because definitely check out, we'll have links underneath Deb's bio for all of this. So in case you didn't grab what she was saying with reference to the link, don't worry, we'll have all of that information available for you on the website of janeapplegath.com. But the first 20 people who go to that link and sign up will receive our gift of the free course coupon with the 3 days to redeem it. And if you're lucky enough to find and watch this interview later, you can still go to that link and sign up and receive the free email version for both the courses and be entered in a chance to win one of the Udemy Stress video courses. So that's a fabulous offer that Deb's offering here. And for anybody and everybody who's, looking to understand how stress can work for us, not against us, how we can learn how to reframe our businesses and our life so that we can move forward. And like Deb says, stay the course. Please go and check out her information, because she has a wealth of experience and knowledge and tools that she's gained from very unique background, I have to say. And I do have just 4 last questions for Deb. These are fun that I like to add for the site. And so I'm going to go ahead and ask those of Deb right now and use a little bit of magic and imagination. So Deb, if your life was an epic story, what would the title be?
How to live, I think I've captured it. How to live life with love in service. How to, you know, it's been my dream to do that. I'm living it. I'm living that dream every day. And it's not an easy path to do that. It's like I said, it's extreme sport to do that.
Yes.
But it's still a noble endeavor, an epic adventure. To get you there is never a straight line. We say in engineering terms, the path to improvement is always the road to improvement is always under construction. You know, it's every time you think you got it, you've got to learn something new.
Under construction. Well, that's great. I have a couple more here. What name would you give your character in your epic story?
Oh boy, that's a great question. What name? I think of my name, Deborah. It means bee. Busy is a bee, industrious is a bee. It's a Hebrew term. And I didn't actually like it initially. And I go by Deb because everyone misspells everything after, but the purpose behind it, it would have to be, it would probably still be the same name, but it would have that even little bees, look how important that they are to the whole structure of life.
Right.
And that it's okay not to be big. It's enough to be small and have a very
make a difference.
Big impact.
Right.
Being part of that.
Absolutely. So here's the second to last. How would you characterize your epic life?
My epic life. It is the fairy tale come true. It's just that you didn't see the have to clean this or do these other things on the sideway, but the emotion that you have with it, that blessed feeling when you wake up and go to bed. There's some days I really want to get things right, but my husband tries to pull me out of that negative thinking.
Yes.
That I have to do it. No, I want to do it. So I actually, the fact that I'm coming up with this material and sharing with your audience today is so new. It really is. The last month, I've helped thousands of people in my life, in my career, profoundly helped people, but I've never put it in a available format. And so we're on the beginning of it, and you are one of the charter members of that. So that's what that epic journey is like right now.
It's wonderful. I'm so glad to hear that. I can't wait to see all of your information and all of the wonderful, courses or programs that you put together. That's really exciting. So here's the last question. If you had one epic superpower, what would it be and why?
My epic superpower would be to ask the most effective question when around deeply disturbed people who are adversely impacting the process. That would be the superpower that I wish that I had. The one that I possess is actually pretty fabulous too, is I usually can get to the heart of sensing when things are off, even if people aren't saying it, and getting people to open up quickly and connect quickly. I do have that superpower, and I love that superpower. It's like the Achilles heel. The Achilles heel is when I'm around people who are hurting other people, and I know they've been doing it their whole lives. And I want to be able to bring them to where they really want to be, because they can't really understand how they're hurting people around them. They believe that they're helping. I know that deep in my heart, and I've known it by asking them. But the destructive path, they think it's the only way. And so being able to ask some people are really good at that. Asking an effective question, that is a superpower that when I see it in action, I just love it. Love it.
Well, knowing you, Deb, you will probably master that. I'm sure you
will. My next journey.
I'm with you on that one. So Deb and I would love to hear from you. Go over to my Facebook page, Jane Applegath, and write a comment. Tell us your epic takeaway or takeaways from this conversation. And once again, thank you so much, Deb, for sharing everything with us, and yourself and your time and your generosity in giving us those tools, and also providing us with those links that people can go to and learn more. I appreciate you, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And this has been the Epic Vision Zone. Thank you so much.
I wish the best for your audience, great success in life and love in every endeavor that they want. Thank you. Thank you for making this possible, Jane. I can't, it's just, you are on an epic journey yourself. So thank you for bringing the women together for this event.
Thank you. Thank you.